Today, we focus our attention on the first of the energy-yielding nutrients, carbohydrates. Let's start by reviewing what we have learned in a previous video. First, carbohydrates are macronutrients, meaning that they are required in large quantities for growth, energy needs, and other body functions. In fact, the recommended daily allowance, or RDA, for carbohydrate is 130 grams, and the recommended range of your total daily calories from carbohydrates is 45 to 65%. Second, carbohydrates are also energy yielding. All carbohydrates provide 4 kilocalories per gram. These calories are released during the breakdown of chemical bonds in a process called catabolism. We'll talk more about that later. Third, carbohydrates are organic, meaning they are composed of molecules containing chains of carbon atoms. They also contain oxygen and hydrogen atoms arranged in basic units called monosaccharides. Chemically, all monosaccharides contain 6 carbons, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms, for a chemical formula of C6H12O6. Due to the number of electrons in carbon, each carbon atom typically forms 4 bonds. Likewise, each oxygen atom forms 2 bonds, while each hydrogen atom forms 1 bond. Carbon and oxygen can also form double bonds that take 2 bonding positions. Finally, carbohydrates are classified as either simple or complex. Simple carbohydrates, or simple sugars, contain 1 or 2 monosaccharides, whereas complex carbohydrates contain 3 or more monosaccharides. Complex carbohydrates are divided into starches and fiber. Now let's look closely at the structure of a monosaccharide. Usually, 5 of the carbon atoms and 1 oxygen atom are arranged in a 6-sided hexagonal ring. This is the case with the simple sugars glucose and galactose. The structures of these 2 monosaccharides differ only by the direction of one OH group on one of the carbon atoms. However, other times, 4 carbon atoms and 1 oxygen atom are linked together in a 5-sided pentagon. This is the case with the simple sugar fructose. In either case, the chemical formula for all 3 monosaccharides is still C6H12O6. Simple sugars don't exist often in nature as monosaccharides. Rather, 2 monosaccharides combine together to form a disaccharide. Disaccharides are created by means of a specific reaction called a condensation reaction. In a condensation reaction, a hydrogen atom of one monosaccharide combines with an OH group of another monosaccharide, forming a water molecule and a disaccharide. There are 3 common disaccharides in our diet. They are maltose, sucrose, and lactose. Maltose, or malt sugar, is a combination of 2 molecules of glucose. Sucrose, or normal table sugar, is a combination of 1 glucose molecule and 1 fructose molecule. Lactose, or milk sugar, is the combination of 1 glucose molecule and 1 galactose molecule. Maltose, sucrose, and lactose, as well as glucose, fructose, and galactose, are all considered simple sugars. Disaccharides again can be broken down into 2 monosaccharides using a reaction called a hydrolysis reaction. Hydro meaning water and lysis meaning to break. In a hydrolysis reaction, water is split and the OH group from water is added to one of the monosaccharides, while the remaining hydrogen atom is added to the other monosaccharide. This reaction occurs in our digestive system with the aid of enzymes that are specific for each of the 3 disaccharides. The enzyme maltase is required to break the disaccharide maltose, the enzyme sucrase is required to break sucrose, and the enzyme lactase is required to break lactose. While we are talking about enzymes, long chains of monosaccharides called starches are broken into shorter chains by an enzyme called amylase. The reaction involving amylase still is a hydrolysis reaction resulting in 2 shorter starches. Maltose also plays an important role in the beer and liquor industry. In the production of alcoholic beverages, starches in various grains are first converted to simpler carbohydrates by enzymes present in the grains. The product of this step, maltose, glucose, and other sugars, are then mixed with yeast cells in the absence of oxygen. The yeast cells convert most of the sugars to alcohol, also known as ethanol, and carbon dioxide, a process called fermentation. The other category of carbohydrates besides simple sugars is complex carbohydrates, also known as polysaccharides. This category includes both starches and fiber. Starches are long chains of monosaccharides, perhaps 1,000 or more, linked together with bonds similar to those that link monosaccharides together to form disaccharides. Originally, plants produced starches as they store sugars made during photosynthesis. Wheat flour is a good example of a starch that is made in this way. The monosaccharides in starches are oriented in either a linear or branching pattern. The linear pattern is called an amylose, whereas the branching pattern is referred to as amylopectin. When we eat carbohydrates, we store excess monosaccharides in a branching pattern called glycogen that is stored in our muscles and liver. Liver and muscle glycogen is extremely important as a reserve source of fuel between meals and during high-intensity or endurance exercise. Fiber differs from starch in that the bonds between monosaccharide units are not digestible by enzymes found in the human GI tract. Therefore, fiber passes through the GI tract undigested and unabsorbed. There are several types of fiber, including cellulose, hemicelluloses, pectins, gums, and mucilages. However, fibers are usually organized according to their solubility in water. Water-soluble fiber swells when put into water, while insoluble fiber does not. Fiber provides several important functions in our diet, including preventing constipation, helping to maintain a healthy body weight, and lowering your risk of diabetes and heart disease. The fiber that occurs naturally in food is referred to as dietary fiber, whereas the fiber that may be added to foods is called functional fiber. The sum of dietary fiber plus functional fiber is called total fiber.